Divorce attorneys have ridiculed. What was the most stupid reason two people wanted to divorce? Kid got one elephant ride too many. Mom and dad agreed before dad took daughter to circus that one elephant ride should be plenty. Mom later finds out that dad let daughter have two, not one, as agreed, but two elephant rides. As mom would describe it, he's doubling down again. Trying to get her to hate me. I know it. Why the hell else is someone letting their kid ride an elephant halfway around the whole damn town? Everybody knows now. Obligatory, not a lawyer. But a lawyer I know got a case because the husband didn't change his Facebook status to married quickly enough after the wedding. It was like 2 weeks. The judge laughed at the lady and made them get marriage counseling. Lawyer pocketed north of $1,000 for that. Back in 1996, a woman filed for divorce, seemingly out of nowhere, to end her marriage of 25 years. 2 years later, her ex-husband received a letter in the mail about her lump sum lottery winnings. Turns out that 11 days before filing for divorce, she had won $1.3 million in the lottery. She didn't disclose this at all during the divorce proceedings in an effort to keep the winnings all to herself, as he would have received half under California law. When the ex-husband took this to court, the judge said she had violated state asset disclosure laws and gave all of her winnings to him. Her lawyer apparently said that if she had said something during the divorce, it's possible she might have been able to keep all of it or come to some agreement. But because of what she did, she lost it all. Here is a more detailed article about the whole thing. I'm not a divorce attorney, but my former subordinate got divorced over POC registered sign-on cards. At one point during the separation, she came to work to accuse him of stealing some of her heirs. It got near physical and we had to have security forces remove the spouse so we could get back to work. They were a hot mess. She saw a picture of him contra dancing he'd posted on Facebook. She knew he went contra dancing. That part wasn't the surprise. In fact, I'm still confused about this one. My client and his wife were into a role-playing game. I think Second Life. Everyone had an avatar. I suspect that his and his wife's were much more sprightly than they were in real life. Anyway, he suspected that she was being unfaithful to him in the game. So he created a fake avatar and stalked her in the game. Sure enough, she was running around on him, having virtual sex with another bloke, or bloke avatar anyway. That was it. My friend's parents divorced because his mother wanted a horse. His father argued that they can't keep a horse in a 6th floor apartment and don't have enough resources or money to rent a stable. Then she ducked her son's math teacher and became a crackhead. I feel sorry for everyone involved. I knew a couple who married super early and divorced so he could join the Naval Academy. Apparently you can't enter if you're married. They stayed together and remarried after he graduated. I know this isn't the reason for the divorce. Sorry, but it made me wonder what precipitated the divorce since it was so paranoid. My sister worked for a divorce attorney, and she had to field a couple of phone calls from a guy in the midst of a messy divorce. He insisted that his ex was putting rocks on his lawn to mess with the lawnmower, and he was trying to somehow add that to the divorce proceedings. A couple in Australia threatened to divorce if gay marriage became legal. But surprise surprise, when it eventually became legal they didn't go through with it. The wife got tired of being married to a transplant surgeon and wanted to be a sand hooker, and yes, it turns out she had mental problems. Not an attorney, but my mom is a paralegal. There was one case that kept dragging along because they were fighting over the luggage. Once that was settled, they started arguing over a $25 plastic palm tree. That palm tree prompted the case to go into mediation, costing both of them around $1,000 each just for the mediation. Not a divorce or a lawyer, but my ex years ago left me because I wanted chickens in the front yard. The conversation was something along the lines of how our futures just didn't line up. Turns out he was cheating. But you know, blame it on the damn free-range hens. It became a cherished phrase almost immediately. I have a friend who used to be a security guard at a courthouse. He said one time he had to watch over a divorce proceeding between a 80-year-old man and his 40-year-old Vietnam wife. He said, in broken English, she wanted to divorce him because he couldn't satisfy her anymore. During the beginning of the case she would yell mean things about this guy and the judge had to constantly tell her to be quiet. The old man never said a word. Eventually the judge said we will have to continue on a future date. She immediately said then forget it, got up and walked out of the courtroom. An elderly friend of mine divorced his wife so she would qualify for Medicaid and could afford her treatment for a terminal illness. They'd been married 40 years and he had strong religious values about the sanctity of marriage. The state caseworker even visited the house to make sure he wasn't living there. In her last difficult days, our stupid greedy medical system was forcing them apart. He died broken-hearted and penniless not long after she passed out. Every dime he had worked his lifetime to save either went to her medical bills or the unnecessary expense of keeping two households to get health insurance. Weird Al Yankovic got divorced when his wife joined the Columbia Record Club. He couldn't handle that kind of commitment. If the reason told was stupid, most likely happened to be the straw that broke the camel's back and there were more serious underlying issues. Well, she had a dream she was going to hell, so she blamed that on him. She now teaches Catholicism just in case. Much older woman, who had been married for a very long time, told me that one morning over breakfast, out of the blue, she had a burning desire to pick up her butter knife and stab her husband to death. She took that as a sign that maybe their relationship was toxic. No, but my dad stated in court that he was divorcing my mom because she was always asking him to take out the trash or mow the lawn or calling him at work to ask him to pick up milk. You know, adult stuff like maintaining a home and family. Her lawyer turned to her and just said, "You're dodging a bullet here. Someday you'll be glad he left." Turned out he was cheating on her. My mom made a very good life for herself. At 71 years old she can afford a house cleaning service and pays someone to maintain her lawn. Karma's rich. In Italy apparently you can save on taxes when buying first house for your own living. If you married it counts as one for the couple. Some people are getting divorced when buying another house to save on taxes again. The husband wants to vaccinate the child while the mother is against it. This the type of it that goes on YouTube. Not a lawyer, but my dad's friend got divorced because they couldn't agree on what kind of house to buy. He wanted one with an apartment so they can have extra income and she didn't want some stranger living in her house. So they split up over it. Not a divorce attorney or anything, but when I was kid, a 15-year-old girl wanted to get married to a 20-year-old guy. Because of her age she needed her parents. So she begged and pleaded with her parents who eventually allowed it for when she turned 16. But the guy divorced her after 4 years because she refused to have sex or even kiss. Like it never occurred to her sex was involved. I suppose this is more of a reflection of the sex education she received. My grandmother was stepping down into their fishing boat. My grandfather was already in the boat. He was holding the pier to stabilize the boat. A rogue wave came, pushed the boat violently away from the pier, and grandma nearly fell into the water. She accused him of intentionally trying to embarrass her. They barely spoke for 3 months. My grandfather refused to divorce because we're Catholic but offered to live apart. I was about 10 years old, living with them during this time. Talk about a crash course in small talk. Not a divorce attorney, but there was a case in Kuwait where a woman wanted to divorce her husband because he eats hummus with a fork. So back in the pre-iPhone era, there was a newly married couple in my apartment building. Maybe 3-4 months in, I come home and hear them fighting about what the exact time is. Like one was saying it's 8:15 and the other was like no it's 8:13. So the next day the guy just walked out and I never saw him again. Later I found out they got divorced over some silly fight. She didn't want to pay for part of the health insurance bill. The guy I used to work with said his wife divorced him because she claimed God spoke to her and told her he wanted her to move the French Riviera to be wined and dined by wealthy men. Because apparently God encourages casual hookups and wealthy men in the Riviera are lining up to sleep with 40-something mothers of 4. Cher lasted just a bit over a week with Greg Allman before she filed for divorce. Eventually reconciled, but in the end they divorced. She filed because of his drug addiction. Something she should have had insight about if she had taken the time to actually get to know who he was before making the decision to marry. Instead she married him after just over 3 days of being divorced to Sonny Bono. Imagine that. Not a lawyer, but my own personal experience. I was married for 11 years and my ex-husband wanted the divorce. He said, "I don't want to lower my standards for you. He didn't want to do anything legal, so I would be forced to stay at home and continue to do things normally. He just wanted to see other women and still have a stay-at-home mom. I had to file for divorce and he fought everything because he didn't want to pay up. He wanted the divorce. And even though I was filing for it, he didn't want to give up what he was ordered to give. He wanted me to agree that I didn't have any rights to the assets and money because I was a mom for 6 years. It's been about a year and a half. Now I am in school full-time, work 2 jobs, I'm a single mom. Yet somehow life is easier without him here. He gave me a blessing I didn't even know I wanted. My divorce. I left him because he was boring. I was cohabitating with and engaged to a guy and we broke up after a week-long beach house vacation with my family because I beat him in front of everyone else playing Scrabble. He was a doctor with a huge ego and said that I was supposed to let him win to make him look good. After a week of the silent treatment, when we got home, he moved out. That's okay. He was a gambling addict as well and that was bothering me, so I was sort of pushing his buttons. I think he wasn't as angry when I confronted him about his gambling problem. So it's funny to me that the last straw was Scrabble. Should have fled serious. There's not really a good answer to your question. I've had tons of clients who got divorced over all sorts of ducked up and really good reasons. I haven't had one where the reason given was just absolutely petty and pointless. It's an expensive, very public, and drawn out process. Almost no one gets divorced on a whim. I'm not a divorce attorney, but I once worked with this dude that was like 19 years old. Seemed a bit young to be married. Then he said she was his second wife. He said he divorced his first wife because she kept grinding the gears in his car. Not a divorce attorney, but still know this. Husband fapping to a German PRN. She wanted the divorce not because he watched PRN but because the person he was fapping to did not have nice tits. Stupid that it had to happen, but technically a good reason. My mom, who worked for our state's welfare agency for 35 years, convinced her brother and sister-in-law to get divorced. They were both my mom's best friends. My mom and her bro were Irish twins, and my aunt and uncle were in love until the day my uncle died. But my uncle worked in construction and had no savings, and so when he got sick, he and my unemployed aunt had no income. This was my aunt's second marriage and her first husband, a teacher, never remarried and eventually passed away. In my state, even if you divorce your spouse, you can take their social security when they die. If 1, you have none, and 2, there are no other legitimate claims. She was a stay-at-home parent and never earned income, so she had no social security, and my uncle put almost nothing into the fund, so his monthly checks were pitiful. So they divorced. She petitioned for her first husband's SS, got it, and then they got remarried. To this day, even though my uncle is now deceased, we are forbidden from mentioning to her kids that her and my uncle were divorced for a few months. I know a couple that wanted a divorce after 35 years because one of them were not happy with who their son was dating. People, man. Proof that even time can't heal stupidity. My ex-wife. I was repairing a pipe in the bathroom sink. I tell her, please give me a glass. I need to drink water from the sink tap. She screams, are you crazy? Go to the kitchen fountain. The water in the bathroom fountain, you never have to drink it. She believed that all over the world we had 2 types of water and double pipes that carry 2 types of water in each house. One for the kitchen and one for the bathroom. Lawyer. Mickey, you can't divorce Minnie for being extremely silly. Mickey, I didn't say she was extremely silly. I said she was ducking Goofy. Although my brother had stupid reasons, my mom almost going to the police takes the cake, so long story as short as I can make it goes. My bro started cheating with a 20-year-old that worked for him. He was about 40 at the time. She may have been as young as 17-18. Sister-in-law catches him not once but twice. They separate and he moves out. My brother's reasoning for straying was because she was mean to him and yelled at him twice. The first instance was like 10 years ago and the second was after he was already cheating. So the best part of the story, he needed someone to watch the kids on his days and he had to work. My sister-in-law had to approve the person. He asked my narcissistic mother, who is one of those that will not change her routine or life for anything. Set in het ways, she not only refused but she threatened to go to the police and say sister-in-law was blackmailing her to watch the kids. Not because they were going to keep her from the kids, no, because they wanted her to watch them and get paid of all the dumb things. My mom thinks this definitely up there. I wish we would have pushed her to go to the police just to see and hear their reaction to her blackmail claim. Not a lawyer here, but the stories I've seen of people being forced to consider divorce to afford medical bills even though they still love each other are pretty damn stupid in a very different way than you were thinking when you wrote this question, I think. Either stupid or brilliant depending on your perspective. But husband was getting sick of his wife and also having an extramarital affair, so he pretended to go bankrupt to try to induce her to leave him. Wife got pretty pissed off, but decided to try to help him out with his failing business instead. Husband then revealed it was all a ruse and he had just been testing his wife. Hardy ha, he didn't actually want to separate anymore. Wife got genuinely pissed off and decided to initiate a divorce due to his overall deceitfulness. Husband then attempted to hide assets during the separation process, but their daughter ratted him out because, you know, duck that guy and all. Wife therefore cleaned husband out during the separation. Significant spousal and child support plus 2.5 out of 3 properties. Husband also lost his mistress due to, well, now actually being semi-broke. Or at least broke for a supposedly rich guy. Wife remarried shortly afterward. I'm going through a divorce right now. I just didn't want to be married anymore, don't love him anymore. The couple had a 7-year-old child and the mom was some crazy anti-vax crazy vegan. The dad gave the child a 6-piece McDonald's chicken nugget for his birthday and the mom went insane. She wanted full custody over the kid but didn't get it, thankfully. How about the most stupid reason not to divorce? A good buddy of mine married a woman who almost immediately after the wedding developed back problems. Back problems that required her to quit her job as a florist. For the last, no kidding, almost 28 years, he's lived alone in a studio apartment so she can live in a 4-bedroom house. The reason he refuses to divorce her is because of her medical condition and his job, cop, gives her golden level coverage. He also mumbles stuff about their 2 kids, but they're college bound now. He also forced himself to do the last 10 years. He's retiring from his department this spring at 30 years, because at 30 years, his contract gives him and his spouse 100% medical coverage for life. He hates his life. I hate it, and her, for him. Bonus, her boyfriend, who makes some nice bucks, lives with her in the house my buddy is paying for. This question doesn't make sense to me. There are no stupid reasons people get divorced. If someone divorces over their spouse liking the wrong TV shows, it has nothing to do with the TV shows. Their reason for divorce is they aren't in love with this person and don't want to be married to them anymore. And that's a great reason to divorce. Not a lawyer, and indirectly the cause. My friend and I were competitive and always tried to mess with each other while competing. One time, while we were drinking, I don't remember what we were doing, but I said to him I ducked your sister. His sister's husband heard me say that and confronted her about it. This led to a huge argument and eventually their divorce. The guy was an asshole and she is significantly happier now without him. Just bumping for the good answers coming to this thread. Not a lawyer, but my uncle once got a marriage annulled because she got mad at him for getting a sunburn on the honeymoon. Dude's probably 98% Irish with the pastiest skin you've ever seen and she expected him to not get a sunburn? My friend's parents got divorced because his mother thought his father had superpowers and was a superhero but didn't want to help the world. My parents got divorced because my father went to a different country without the rest of us to have a week off. My mother thought he was cheating on her, so they go divorced. I still don't get it. Not an attorney, and not a reason, but still a stupid thing involving a divorce. When I was volunteering at an animal shelter, there was one dog who was there simply because his owners got divorced and couldn't agree on who should get the dog, so they abandoned him in the, thankfully no kill, shelter instead. Poor dog was so big, he barely fit in the small kennel. His bedding was just blankets on the floor because he was too big for the usual dog cot's beds. If he stood with his back to the wall, his front almost reached the kennel's gate. I don't know whatever happened to him, but I hope he found a forever home with nice humans and a lot of space. They both couldn't decide which school to send their son to. They decided to live together, but she didn't want to pay the rent, the gas, water, anything. She said she just broke the 6-told relationship. Although she tagged he was a cheapskate. Because the guy helped out at her animal shelter, she thought he was cheating on her instead of going. Not personal, but a friend. This couple, probably about 27 years old each, went into his office crying. He said it looked like they were crying for hours. So he decided to take them in and hear the case and whatever. Apparently, the woman, who was still crying, had asked the man to buy her cookie dough so they could make cookies for her friends' get together. The woman said he bought cookies instead from the grocery store bakery, and she flipped out on him for not caring about what she wants. The man filed for divorce the day of. She thought he was sleeping with his sister. Turns out he was sleeping with his mother-in-law. The dude, Alex we call him, wanted a divorce because his wife, we call her Jennifer, gave birth to his child. I laughed when he told me, lol. Actually listening to someone on relationship advice, right? JKS, I know it's not all bad. Used to work in family law as paralegal during the 50 Shades of Grey hype. She wanted too much sex. He wanted out of the marriage. The judge literally called the lawyers to the bench and asked if this was real. They had been married for 20 plus years, very successful couple who were now trying to split millions in assets and business ventures. So out of curiosity, I binge watched all 3 movies after the last one came out. I wanted that time of my life back, but I saw nothing horribly wrong with it. It is forever dubbed the 50 Shades case. Not a divorce attorney, but my stepdad loved World of Warcraft more than my mom, and my brother, sister, and I. He got pretty toxic, and then just left after some crazy stuff he did. Obligatory, not a lawyer, but I heard a story of a woman who divorced her husband because he chewed too loud. Not a divorce attorney, but my aunt and uncle divorced because they couldn't decide on a new fridge, which then open up to the argument I don't understand me blah blah blah. There's not really a stupid reason. If the reason is stupid, then you obviously don't love them, and that's a good reason. I'm not one, but my grandfather, I call him the big idiot, tried to divorce my grandmother because, I'm gonna cite his word, she is ugly. Yeah, that Methodica said my grandma ugly. Then run away and 10 years later come back, try and put my family all out of my house. I hate he so much. Not Minnow, and it wasn't a divorce, but they were together. So my aunt told me this story. They played the Monopoly cheating version. The BF stole cash from his GF and she just began an argument, and at last they broke up with each other. If my husband started eating pineapple on pizza, I'd be done. Freaking done. One said they heard them say they were going to be a tourist for their new job, but they were going to be a pharmacist. Don't ask me how you mess up that bad. The degree of stupidity a couple uses in their application should increase the validity for their application. If one or both are desperate enough to use stupid reasons, they obviously don't belong together. My friend, male, got divorced after only a few months of marriage. His wife said she couldn't handle the intimacy. She had prior mental health issues as well, which weren't dealt with professionally. Could have mentioned that before marriage. He bought a sunbed. I can't be married to a man who owns a sunbed. The mother didn't want a thing to do with her special needs autistic child. Lel.